And
Sard, you got to start again.
okay, start again.
Right,
Okay,
when you ready? Ready, Leon? Ready? All right, we're
ready?
ready. Right, you're
Okay.
live.
Greetings, listeners. This is Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. We normally start at 6 p.m., but today we've had a few issues, and we are. Its time is just 6:37. So apologies for the very late start, but we are starting now. We're going to have 2 hours from now. We've been told. So, welcome, listeners. I'm Saad. I'm in southeast London in Bromley, and it's very lovely and warm here. 26 degrees. I think it is been today. 29 degrees. I'm not quite sure. I think it's 26 degrees today. So very sunny and warm and hot, I will say. And with me is Gregory. Gregory, where are you today? And how's the weather there?
Well, here in Brussels, the weather has been beautiful.
Very good, very good. So, welcome, listeners. Apologies for the delayed start. We are live now. I hope you can been able to wait for us. The aim of the show is the program is called Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. And every week we have a new topic. The topic tonight is truth and dogma. Truth and dogma. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 07939. Say again, so the number is 07939 641 958. Sorry, bless you. We can hear you. Yeah. All right. Okay. So yes, listeners, you can call us and with any questions or comments. The number and text us or use WhatsApp. On again, the number, the UK number is 07939 641 958. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail message? The Grail message, in the light of truth, by Abdushin, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life, by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Abdushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings, Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. Dear listeners, just to remind you again, the topic we're discussing tonight is truth and dogma. The truth and dogma. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as I said just now, the topic tonight we are discussing is truth and dogma. And as my usual habit, I've looked up in the dictionary, even if the dictionary is not always, let's say, comprehensive, these meaning of these words. So I actually began with the word dogma. So I'd like to read what I found there. So a dogma, the meaning is given in the dictionary, a principle or a set of principles laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true. And the example they give is the dogmas of faith. And then let me just start with that, Gregory. So that definition, I'll just repeat that. Dogma, a principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true. And the example given is the dogmas of faith. So, Gregory, is that meaning of dogma? Is that suitable for our discussion tonight? Is that covering what we're going to be talking about tonight as a meaning of dogma?
It could be a starting point in examining truth and dogma.
Thank you for that. So, just thank you for that, actually, because I also looked up in Wikipedia, and there it says about dogma. Dogma in the broad sense is any belief held unquestioningly and with undefended certainty. It may be in the form of an official system of principles or doctrines of a religion, such as, I don't think we need to give examples, we just say religion. It may be, as I say, in the form of official system of principles or doctrines of a religion. And it can also be found in political belief systems as well. So that's the Gregory, so I've added a little bit extra there about any belief held unquestionably and with an undefended certainty. So is that adding to our discussion?
That enhances. However, dogma can be found anywhere you have maybe one person or a group of people, a collection of people, they can have certain rules which they say are not questionable. Those rules are not subjected to further improvement. So what you do not question, you assume it's complete and perfect. Whether those rules violate the laws of creation or not, it's immaterial, and they just put there, and that's why they are called dogma.
So, as you were speaking there, Gregory, I got the impression that the truth is not the same as dogma somehow, because the dogma may not be true. Would that be right in my assessment, what you've said just now?
The truth may not be compared with dogma, for this truth stands by itself, and it is self-consistent.
Thank you for that. Just can I check with this, what you mean by self-consistent?
By self-consistent, one can give an example. A house divided against itself cannot stand. So one is just giving a counter example. Self-consistent means in its operation, it is harmonious. It does not require others to verify it. It is upbuilding. It is the framework, the foundation of everything that exists.
Thank you. That's a really incredible answer you've given there, Gregory. It sort of automatically sounds like it covers everything, and dogma somehow has some limitations, almost, I can say, even though, yeah, so the truth covers everything, while dogma seems to have some limitations. Would I be right in that assessment?
Of course, that is right.
Yes.
The challenge with dogma is that it's not supposed to be examined, whereas the truth is supposed to be examined again and again to ensure that what was true yesterday is true today and it's also true tomorrow. The dogma may just stand for be in place for a short while, and they say you don't question this. That means for the dogma you don't have to understand.
Yes, thank you again for those answers, Gregory. So we are definitely building up the discussion and these concepts, so we can really, like you say, examine them. In our discussion can really explore it very well. So I'm now going to move on to the second part of the topic is, we said, is truth and dogma. So I'd like to look at the definition of truth that I found. And in the dictionary it says, truth is the quality or state of being true, that which is true or in accordance with fact or reality. And there's a further definition, another line on this dictionary. It says, a fact or belief that is accepted as true. So that sounds a little bit weaker, Gregory. So let me repeat that so we go through it line by line. So in the dictionary definition, I found truth, the quality or state of being true, that which is true or in accordance with fact or reality. And then it adds a fact or belief that is accepted as true. So how would you, that definition, is that a good definition? I'm having...
What has been read out as a definition is cramped, limited, and does not really reflect what truth is.
Right.
It tries to describe it, but is unable to do so because the truth is very comprehensive.
Thank you. In fact, Gregor, if I say how you described it earlier, it was a better definition, because this one you're starting to doubt what truth is in 1 second. The initial line was very clear, and then it lost a bit of clarity. So thank you for that answer. Now, just going back to sort of examples of dogma, and I know there are many religions out there, claiming to have the truth. And so I want to pick one example, but this is not like picking to against something or for something. It's just an example to discuss with. So Gregory, many Muslims, or every Muslim, I will say, claims that Quran has never changed from its origin and is protected by God. In fact, they say it was revealed to Prophet Muhammad through the angel Gabriel, and basically the words are of God speaking in these. In the words in the Quran are actually the words of God speaking, and they claim it hasn't changed because it's been memorized. First Prophet Muhammad received it, and then he passed it to his people around him, and they memorized it, and so it has been, and then it was written down after some time, and so it has supposedly not changed, and that is considered to be undisputed truth. And so, Gregory, when people make such a claim, and as I said, that becomes a dogma, that this is, in fact, is the part of the belief that that's how you accept this teaching. So when somebody, as I said, I'm using this only as an example, not to pick a particular group or anything, when that happens, when people say this is the truth, totally unchanged from the original, as it was originally given, and then, Gregory, you find other teachings of God or revelations where people all have some, let's say, some differences with, let's say, this one, and many of them say, oh no, this is also the word of God here. We are also having it's been inspired by God, and it's the word of God there. So when, Gregory, this happens, and let's say two groups, just to pick an example like that, having this, who are different, claiming the same thing, that no, ours is the truth, and obviously you can't have, where there's a difference, both being correct. Either one of them is wrong or both of them are wrong. So, my question then is, how can we approach when people are like, when they believe in this so strongly, in a dogmatic, let's say dogmatic way, is it possible, Gregory, for them to see something which that may not agree with what they have? It's like, it seems like, because they will never agree, the two groups can never agree, and both of them are claiming that is the absolute truth what they have. So, is there a way forward? Let me say like this: any way forward in this situation?
Of course, there has always been a way forward. The way forward is the path of truth itself. What was true yesterday, 1,000,000 years ago, if indeed it is the truth, will be true today and in future. Therefore, its form cannot change because it is the truth and remains the same in its form. Secondly, if it is the truth, then it must be examined. If it cannot be examined, then it is not the truth. Therefore, those who claim that it is what they have is perfect and must not be examined are only hiding behind their personal inadequacies. For the truth itself must be examined thoroughly, such that whoever has the strength, the determination to examine, will awaken to the truth. For only through the paths that the truth has hewn out, only through such paths may a human personality follow. So whenever it is said and there's that, oh, it has been inspired or given, then it must be examined. Examined first, if it is the truth, in accordance with the operations in nature, in creation. So it is not right to hear, oh, this, what we have applies to human being, it doesn't apply to plants, it doesn't apply to stones, it doesn't apply to animals. The truth transcends all this. Therefore, it must be examined. For in the process of continuous examination and drawing the right conclusions, the examiner awakens to the recognitions of the truth. That is quite important. For those who refuse to examine, they are asleep. And therefore, they must be allowed to sleep on through their stubbornness or through their dogmatic behaviors by closing themselves to the possibilities of further examinations. And there are no loss. So whether it be a religion or not, it must be examined. So all religions must be examined thoroughly in relation to the laws of nature, of creation, through which all that exists came into existence. For when one looks very carefully, what is religion? If religion itself, in quotes, violates the laws of nature, it violates the laws of creation, it violates the divine laws. It only means it is dogma. Therefore, one has to be vigilant. Vigilant in spirit, vigilant in body, such that whatever one comes across, one has to reflect very carefully about it and draw conclusions.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for your answer there. What I'm seeing, Gregory, that when you have, let's say, two groups claiming to have the truth, the absolute truth, and but there are certain things, Gregory, you said examine, we must examine. And I'm just wondering, maybe certain things can't really be examined, they're just revealed to us. And what I'm thinking of as an example, if something happens has been revealed about heavenly things, and heavenly things are not on the earth. They are on, so the earth, we can explore what is on the earth, but when there are things that are told about heaven, if I can say like this, it's just we're not there in heaven, so we are not able to see that or examine that, and yet, and then here on earth we have been given the so-called teaching about heaven, and let's say two groups claiming that they have it. You can't look at them. I mean, if one says, let's say, I'm going to put it like, one says this is how it is in this teaching, and another one says it's another way in another teaching. We just don't have a way to examine that, Gregory. So how do we go about in those sort of situations to examine?
It is not right to say one cannot examine. We just made a statement, which is one has to be vigilant in spirit and in body. Or to reframe it, one has to be vigilant spiritually and also intellectually. To the body belongs the intellect. Spirit, that which makes the body tick. Spirit, that which moves the personality, which it really is. Therefore, one must look at, or sort of take the statements when they speak of heaven. Then the first question would be, what is this heaven? One has to look at a group that later on became a nation, so-called Nation of Israel. In the flag, you find there is so-called star. In that flag, there is the triangle pointing up, and there is another triangle pointing down, which only means, if when interpreted correctly, as it is above, so shall it be below. That should set many reflecting not only intellectually, but also spiritually through one's intuition. That reflection through the intuition is what many are currently unable to do, for they only assume that life is only physical. So when the word heaven is mentioned, it is something abstract, not concrete. Because they are so unsure and they are afraid to touch on that which is so lofty, many acquiesce and take what has been offered to them without understanding. The result of that is that it purges them. The lack of understanding makes them get involved in activities which are unwholesome. And that is why you have extremities in many so-called religion, which is due to their lack of understanding. If it is the truth that which they hold, then it must apply to themselves, to their, in quotes, faith or lack of faith, to the plants, to the animals, in fact, to everything. That is the truth. Else, if it can, the laws or the rules cannot be consistent in all that exists, then it cannot be the truth. Therefore, what they hold in their hands is their lack of understanding of what has been brought and granted to them. But until they bestir themselves to understand it aright, they are sleeping.
Thank you, Gregory, again for your answer there, showing that you said we examine, that you mentioned earlier that we have to examine, and just because it might appear that there's certain things you may not be able to examine, but actually if you are striving, you could say, for answers, as it says, seek and ye shall find. So you mustn't ever think, oh no, let's say there's not an answer, or I cannot find the answer. And let's say you are in an emergency, you will still think you want to be saved. You won't want to say, oh no, I give up. Even you might have the fear that, maybe I can't be saved, but you would still want to be saved. So from what you're saying, Gregory, if we had that level of, I don't know what exactly the word I want to use here, but level of seeking, if I can say that way, or the will to find the answers or to solve a problem, whatever it is, that great will, that I must succeed in what I'm seeking, and you could say even confidence. So, and we say where there's a will, there's a way. So once we say these sayings, then surely, if you think this cannot be done or there's no answer, that's just us limiting ourselves. But actually, there are answers. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Apologies for our late start, but we are broadcasting now. It was unfortunately we had some technical issues, but we are broadcasting now. And the topic we are discussing tonight is truth and dogma. Truth and dogma. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 07939 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And just to remind you, the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com, Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Also, you can go to YouTube. On YouTube, you go type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space live stream. Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording on the next day. And again, on YouTube, you go in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space Grail message, and then space the title or the topic of the show, which tonight is Truth and dogma. Truth and dogma. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well. Gregory, I want to explore, what is truth in terms of, or let's say how we can look at, you said examining. Truth must be examined, or let's say everything must be examined. So I want to look at how it can be examined. So you did mention earlier, Gregory, when I talked about heavenly things and then earthly things. Earthly things, we are on the earth, we have ways on earth to examine. And heavenly things, you mentioned we have the spirit. There's basically, it needs to be examined spiritually. So does that mean, Gregory, yes, let's start with science, Gregory. Science is the way we use on earth, you can say, to examine things. Is that a good way to look at, you could say, truth thing? Yes, for truth on the earth, on the earthly ways, and or is there a limitation in science to examine things?
So there is some noise in the background.
Okay.
Okay, it stopped now. It stopped.
All right.
In the first instance, one must understand what science, or the so-called science, what it does. And basically it is that it conducts investigations into a particular area. It then takes in the results of its investigations and forms a model. With that model, it tries to predict. But in gathering this information, it is tied to what it is able to perceive with its particular limitations to the conceptions of space, to the conceptions of time. So its scope is tied to the gross material physicality, and that being the case, it also builds up models, which models are improved continuously. Because these models are improved continuously, inevitably it is not perfect. For if it was perfect, there would be no need to improve on them when new phenomena are recognized. It would have fitted into it. That is the work of science. That is necessary for the things of the gross matter, or for the things of the earth. However, for things which lie above the scope of gross matter, in all naturalness, it is not capable of examining that. Whereas that which is of spirit, which is not of gross matter, is capable of examining not only gross matter, but beyond gross matter through its intuition. So, in the case where the spirit takes on, adorn itself with the physical body like you and I, the intellect is then granted to it, which is the finest product that's available for gross material examination. Whereas the spirit in its essence is also able to do further examinations, which is beyond the earthly conceptions of space and time. So one can see the limitations of science.
Apologies, I don't know what that was, but carry on, Gregory.
No, one has finished. I was going to stop there.
Sorry. Okay, there was a noise as soon as you finished. Apologies. Okay. Thank you for that answer, Gregory. What you're doing actually is showing that everything has its place, if I can say. So science covers a certain area and time and space, you can say. So it can look at that area. And then another area, although we haven't talked so much on that yet, let's say heavenly or spiritual area, if I can use that word, just to look at it. Science is not able to explore that. And Gregory, is it because, let's say, that is a different world or different, heaven and spiritual worlds? Are they different? Is it a different material? A different world even? Is it somewhere else that we cannot reach with the science? How can we look at that? That certain things you can examine with your intellect. You even used the intellect. You said intellect, science, and so that, let's say, earthly things or physical things or gross matter things, the world can be examined with science and with this intellect. And then these other worlds, Gregory, are they of, what's the difference between those worlds and this, let's say, the world of matter?
In the first instance, one mentioned the limitations of the intellect, the human intellect that it uses for examinations. Gross matter is what can be conceived by the intellect. Above gross matter, because the intellect has not got the capabilities to examine what lies above it, in all naturalness, it cannot perceive, because the tools for perceptions for that which is non-gross matter is not available to it. However, that which is of spirit, which has taken on the intellect through the physical body, is able first examine with the intellect and through its other bodies able to examine what lies above gross matter. In the great divisions or the categories, there is the world of matter in which there are subdivisions. which subdivisions become denser and denser, and one seems alien to the other, although they are of material substantiality of matter. Outside matter, which matter itself serves as covering for the human personality that intends to experience in the world of matter, there is another consistency, there is another category which lies above the world of matter. That category, that consistency, one may classify or may give a name to it as that of the animistic. And above that category of the animistic, there is that of spiritual substantiality. Spiritual substantiality from that particular species arose the inner core of man, which is of spirit. These are just simple classifications. Which classifications must themselves be realized or be recognized through further examinations, not because they have been spoken of. As a precursor in discussions like this, it must be stressed that whatever is discussed here is only an attempt to share with many the understanding of creation as granted to mankind through the work in the light of truth. That particular expressions, or that particular statement, light and truth, all that any personality needs to know. That can also be followed by further examination of the work in the light of truth, the Grail message. That is only by the side. What is then key for the personality to comprehend, to know, in order to be able to fashion his or her path, are the laws that operate in these three big divisions of the spiritual, of the animistic, and also in the world of matter. These have to be examined gradually, confidently, in a step-by-step fashion. Only through further examination can one come to a proper understanding of the processes which abide in these different realms. So, whilst one is here on earth, if you need to go from one part of your city or your village to another part, the best guide you can have is a map. A simple diagram which shows the paths that you might need to follow to get from one place to another. This is so self-evident in our modern living that nobody bothers to ask about it. Now, even with our so-called mobile phones, you just Google it and it will give you pointers. You need to go from here to there so that you will not be lost. This has become ubiquitous, and you accept it because it's always there. Just as you have, or just as mankind have been striving in an intellectual manner to present maps, which maps helps in to find their direction on how to move from one place to another, so also there have been maps in creation which guides the human spirit, which maps may be looked upon, may be utilized only through one's intuition. Whilst the intellect sufficed to examine the physical map, the intuition also is helpful to examine the non-physical map. For only when one strives or searches for it, or to put it bluntly, only when one seeks diligently will you find. And when one struggles or knock vigorously, will the door be open? Then one will know indeed there is a map. And with that, one cannot go wrong. And that was why Christ made it very clear. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and the door will be open. With that, he was speaking spiritually or non-earthly.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for this. I know it was a long answer, but and comprehensive as well. But it really has opened this topic tonight to the, let's say, to the reality of what this world actually is. Yes, there's the physical world that we all see every day, with our eyes and ears and our other senses. But then there's the non-visible world, if I can say that, or non-physical world, non-material world, where you cannot use your material senses. And the intellect you've mentioned, it works, yes, on this intellectual, in the earthly world, but there is the non-earthly world, and for that you need to have other senses. And but first, even you need to know or be aware that there is another world apart from the earthly physical world, the physical universe that we are familiar with. And then when you see that, like we said, the word heaven, we gave that example, or we can say spiritual, then we need to use, you could say, spiritual means to sense the spiritual world. And you've pointed to, in the light of truth, the Grail message as a work showing that, you could say, that world, opening us to this world. You give the example of, we have a map on the earth, where if you want to go A to B, but, you can, with technology, we have Google for everything, as you said. However, there's also a map for this other world, the spiritual world. Not only spiritual, let's call it all the worlds, because in a way, when you realize what it is, Earth is also part of the whole creation, let me say like that. This is, we're living in creation, and the Earth is part of that. And then there's more to the Earth, or the physical universe, in this creation. So there's a map of creation that is out there. Now, Gregory, we know about the five senses, and you mentioned the intellect as well, that we have you could say, to examine this earthly world, the physical universe, the matter, the world of matter, the gross matter, and we pointed to that there is this world of non-matter, non-gross matter. So what sense, I assume because we talked about spirituality, there must be some spiritual sense. What is this spiritual sense or way of examining the non-material world?
Along the line, there is the mention of the personal intuition, which intuition is an expression or an impression that is pushed out from the spirit for experiencing. So the spirit, that is the core, the inner core of man, the basic sense that it uses is the intuition or the intuitive perception. Of course, it has to be intuitive perception for the senses which you talked about, the so-called intellectual senses or body senses. These are instruments of perception. The so-called five senses, these are instruments for perception. Which instrument is able to collect information and return it to the intellect, and if the intellect permits, without distorting it, it goes straight to the spirit. There, from the frontal brain to the back brain, and then to the spirit. So one can see that within, say, here in the physical world, the gross material physical world, these five senses are only looking at, are only manifestations, different manifestations, independent manifestation, which when fully experienced can be sent to the spirit. For your sense of smell, you yourself do not see your sense of smell, neither can you hear your sense of hearing. These are different parts. When united, these perceptions, when united, form a complete whole, which whole is now passed on to the intellect and back to the spirit. However, the spirit itself, in its experiencing through the intuitive perception, is able to pick out that which it needs to know through the intuitive perception. The manifestations of the intuitive perception varies from one realm to another.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Again, we are expanding our understanding of how we can examine these worlds, the earthly world, which you are familiar with, and the non-earthly world, which we are not so familiar with. And we talked about those five senses, the intellect, and now the intuition as a tool, the five senses and the intellect working on the earthly level, able to see things in the earthly level, you can say, examine things on the earthly level, you could say the world of matter, gross matter, and whilst we have this intuition, which is, let's say, the spiritual tool or sense of seeing the world which is non-material. And yet, Gregory, you pointed out that on this earth, the spirit is able to work with the senses. It's like it's a two-way communication, if I can say. So you might think, oh, right, we use the material senses to examine material things, but it doesn't sort of just stop, the process doesn't stop there. It doesn't just end up in our brain, and that's the end of the activity of examining something. It actually goes right, there's a connection from, let's say, if I don't want to go too detailed, but let's say from the brain to our spirit, which has the spiritual sensing and through the intuition. So the intuition is not, therefore, it looks at we are using our intuition to look at material things, earthly things, but also it is perceiving the spiritual things as well. So hopefully I haven't made it too complicated for people to follow, but just to widen this understanding that, yes, there are the five senses, and there's the intellect to look at the earthly world, the universe, the physical universe, and then there is the non-material world, which the intuition is able to sense with, and these are working together on the earth with our body, the intellect and everything in our body, and with the spirit, which is living in this body, you could say. So hopefully, again, I hope I haven't confused people, but just to be aware that there's a concept. And really, as we said, this is only an introduction, what we're giving here. For really a proper understanding, we do advise and recommend that you pick up the Grail message for detailed understanding of this structures and the processes involved. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. And if you are interested in knowing about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is truth and dogma. Truth and dogma. You're very welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us is our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, we talked a lot about truth there, and I just want to go back to something else. Let's say, Christians claim Jesus is, or it's written in the Bible, let's say, that Jesus said, I am the truth, the way, and the light. And I've forgotten the second part of that, Gregory. It was something like, through me you can go to the Father. I've forgotten the exact words. It's just gone out of my head right now. And so what I want to say, Gregory, the Christians use that as you could say, a part of their dogma or doctrine of, let's say, salvation. That if you believe in Jesus, accept him as the Son of God, that he is the Son of God, and that he came to show us the way and save us, basically. So that that doctrine or dogma, Gregory, when Christians claim this, is that because they're saying through that belief they will be saved, and it's almost like this is the only way. They also claim this way is the way. And what we have been saying here so far, Gregory, we say examine, continuously examine. And somehow that doesn't seem to be the same as what Christians are claiming with Jesus saying, I am the way and the light, and no man cometh to the Father but through me. I now remember the line. So when those words are spoken that way, that I am the way, the truth, and the light, and no man cometh to the Father but through me, that sounds like demanding a belief, and in that you could say doctrine or dogma. Is that not is that opposing examining or not? Does it seem to suggest not examining, Gregory? Could you just tell us, yes, what is meant by that?
As long as the words of Christ have not been examined aright, then there will be this scenario in which one is unable to move forward or backwards. Take the simple example of the map. Let us assume one needs to move from one area of the city to another area of the city, and a map is presented to them. If they do not make the efforts to follow the paths shown in the map to get to the destination, they will not get there. Even when the map and the paths are clearly marked out. So also with the words of Christ. When he made such statements, only through what he himself has revealed, only through following that, will one get home consciously. It's a self-conscious human spirit. So for those who keep repeating those expressions, and yet they do not make the necessary effort to assimilate them, use them, that is, follow them, then they will not get to their destination. They are like sounding brass. That means there is so much noise about it, but no action. Therefore, it is the compliance, it is following the paths. When the expression seek and you shall find, seeking alone calls for vigilance, calls for personal efforts. Knock and the door will be open. These activities calls for efforts from the personality who is seeking, who wishes to know. For if it is not so, then there will be no need for such expressions. For this nature or creation itself is movement, is alive. When movement is discussed, it means there is life. For where there is no life, there is no movement. And when movement is mentioned, it means there must be some efforts to leave one attitude, one place to another. So the words of Christ, when looked at from the point of the laws of creation, which engenders movement, they are consistent. Therefore, they are right.
Thank you, Gregory, for that answer. Again, it shows we have to examine. There's just no way around that. When something is said, we need to examine it, and then we must obviously understand it aright. Otherwise, we get lost in, let's say, either our own ideas or somebody else's ideas, and there's no clarity, and which of course doesn't give you happiness or peace, because you don't know, and but like what you have said, I think this word of examining, continuously examining, if I can use that word, like if that can be a motto, continuously examining everything, so that way you will just not rest till you find. Seek and you shall find. So that just keep, let's say, implant that in you. That is the way you can have the peace, you could say satisfaction of knowing something, only because you continuously examine, not because somebody said one thing or another thing, and it's like just as someone saying something, but it doesn't ring within you is it real, is it not real? You cannot be sure. But if you keep examining, then you are the one examining, and then you can say, yes, I have looked at this. I know where this goes. And if you haven't found the answer, you keep looking until the answer comes. So, Gregory, those teachings that are given to humanity, we have the many faiths, and does it mean, Gregory, you say keep examining, does it mean we have to examine all these different teachings and find out which ones are right, or which part is right and which is not right? Or do you just leave them alone and just start your own journey and say, look, because if you do follow those teachings, it's like you're taking on somebody else's opinion or dogma, you can say, and it won't really maybe connect with you. And if you just examine on your own journey, it'll be, let's say, you would be more unprejudiced in how you seek. So the question, Gregory, is, yes, should we look at all these teachings and examine them all, or should we just leave them and just start like from scratch?
If one does not examine something, how would that person know whether that which he or she is examining is right or not right? So whatever comes one's way, one must find time to examine. Not just examine for the sake of examining, but there has always been a reference framework. That reference framework, which is ubiquitous, is the laws of nature. Which laws? govern what is in nature, the contents and the processes within each matured personality, say human being. That person already senses, and using that as the background, one is now able to examine what comes to one, but what one encounters. For it's a matter of self-preservation. Preservation of the self, that is, preservation of the human personality, the human spirit. And that can only happen when one is, or when one follows the law of continuous improvement, continuous motion. So one has to preserve oneself, and being vigilant in one's examination. Before too long, one will find ways to spend lesser time on that which may become distractions.
Thank you again for that answer, Gregory. You've given a guidance or a direction that we can follow. So we don't waste time and, waste time on things which are not going to be helpful for our journey in, let's say, of life. Because there's so much out there. It's very easily you can spend hours and your life in something which actually won't be very useful. So Gregory, following from what you've said there, is there something like a way of knowing when something is helpful for our journey, or, to answer questions of life? So you look at something, you said examine, that's the key thing, always examine. You're always examining something. So when you come across something, and is there a way you can assess, Gregory, oh, this is useful to me, or this is not useful to me?
The question has always been, if really you have come across something, how would you know whether it is useful to you or not useful to you? For that to be, must one not examine it? To examine doesn't mean you have to criticize it. To examine it, two parts. On the one hand, intellectual examination. On the other hand, non-intellectual examination, which one refers to as the intuitive examination. That is a start. And as you progress in your personal journey, you gather up along the line that which one, strictly speaking, has experienced. By experience means it has gone to one's intuition and will be used as parts of building block in the mosaic which one needs to use before too long. Of course, as with everything, the initial stage is always challenging. But as time goes on, you find that is not the case. It's like the case of when one is learning a new language with all the challenges, but subsequently, when some things have been internalized, becomes a matter of course, just as you have in music. At the initial stages, the challenges are there because all this while, one has not exerted oneself along that direction, but subsequently, in doing so, one is surprised how other areas open up and one is quickly to embrace. And that is why in many cultures it is said, he or she who dares wins. It is helpful that many a listener must be daring in order to win.
Thank you again, Gregory, for your answer. It's not just an answer. This is a question and there's an answer. There's, you could say, an approach. There's an attitude required to achieve something. And you've said there's I forgot the exact word you used, but there's like you need to be bold. He who dares wins. That's the phrase. And so, are you going to be daring for this to do that, or let's say bold to that you want to do this, really want to do this, or you really want an answer. So, and you could say the reward. You have to work for your reward. So, in a way, it's all making sense. There's nothing comes for free, if I can say in another phrase that we use commonly. You have to work for it. So yes, thank you for that. Now, Gregory, there's something else you could say from the Bible as well. The Ten Commandments, they say 10 Commandments of God have been given to us. And again, are those, and they said this is a divine revelation. So the way it's put is, it's like, again, it comes across that, oh, this is from God. It's like unquestionable. That's what it has to be. For example, we know one of the commandments is thou shalt not steal, or thou shalt not kill. So those are like, you could say, well, that's the word, they're called commandments. So, Gregory, when those commandments have been given, are we supposed to just accept that, oh, these are from God and they must be followed without question, or are we meant to question that? And yeah.
To question does not mean to criticize. To question only means to exert oneself to follow step by step in an intellectual manner, but also in an intuitive manner, to have a comprehensive understanding of what these commandments, which one may call laws, to have a comprehensive understanding such that one will not tie knots on one's striving or path. For every personality here on earth has incarnated on earth for self-improvement. For self-improvement in order to either redeem that which they had done wrong in the past, or to ensure in this space and time granted the particular personality, it is able to use the resources granted it to improve its own lot physically and non-physically. For if someone were to act in such a way as to disturb another, that person who acted in that particular way has to make amends. It is only fair that one has to make amends or make atonement. And therefore, if one goes around, offending people, doing all sort of things, then there will be not much time left for self-improvement. Therefore, this may be called laws. However, when many people say it comes from the Almighty, they are only, just like parrots, voicing it. They themselves are never convinced. For if they have examined it again and again, they have followed the path, just like a map, a dynamic map, a lively map, which has been shown to them, then they will find that there are some paths they should not take. Hence thou should not steal. Thou should not covet. These are the steep paths that one should not take. These paths which will bring one or make one come crashing should not be followed. However, if one strives in looking up to the high goal, which high goal is the source from whence all power streams, then gradually they will, in their strivings, arrive to the high goal, just like it is said, as it is above, so it must be below. In following that path, they will arrive safely. But that has not always been the case. For these worlds are highly distorted, and because of the distortion, you find that the expressions now mean nothing as such.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I'm just thinking this examining, it seems to be an individual examination. Each person has to examine themselves rather than, again, I don't want to really compare, but let's say in many teachings there are scholars who sort of read their teaching and then interpret for the general layman. And then that's what they are taught, let's say, as children, to follow this teaching. But what, Gregory, what you seem to be pointing to is the teaching, everything must be examined individually. And what my concern on that is, Gregory, if everybody examines individually, just to double check, Gregory, is that what you were saying, to examine each person individually rather than as a group?
Each person must eat of the fruit which has been granted to it. Do we normally say that a special person has to do the eating for us? How can we enjoy that resource which strengthens us if we do not imbibe it. To imbibe it is equivalent of eating it and allow it to grow within us or to give us the strength. So it is not right to allow some others to sit out there to do the interpretation when we ourselves, or only through our efforts to understand, albeit gradually, can we make progress. For if these so-called gurus or special people, if indeed they do understand it, then through their activities, they should mix among the people. They should not have special schools amongst people, but should be able to interact with them. So by very simple and natural examples, they will then understand, or many will then understand, that which has been granted. For if that is not the case, if people have to go to the monastery or go to special places to understand this, then consider the whole world spending times in monastery. Will that be progress? Who will now produce the food? So these things don't make much sense. What is key, whoever indeed do understand should make use of it for himself or herself, and through very, very simple examples, show to others that is their own understanding. And through such examples, many are bound to follow.
Thank you for this answer, Gregory. We really are getting deeper into this topic tonight. Yes, dear listeners, you're listening to Blessed Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. That's www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is truth and dogma. Truth and dogma. You're very welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us is on our UK number. It is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Also, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Also, we are on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space live stream. That's listening to our live show. And our shows are recorded. You can listen to the recording next day on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again with the number 1, space Grail message. And then the topic of the show, which tonight is truth and dogma. Gregory, just continuing about, we said examine these things individually, with our own perception. And we talked about the intuitive. We have the five senses, the intellect, and we have our intuitive perception. You could say the spiritual perception, spiritual sense. Now, Gregory, everybody's individual. We all know that. We all think differently. We act, each person is unique personality. And so I'm wondering, Gregory, and if this is the way, you could say that through the intuition that we are meant to perceive the truth, then it looks to me, Gregory, that everybody will have their own perception of the truth. And so it looks like they will have, well, it will be individual, and then looks like it will be all different, and there wouldn't be, we said truth is supposed to be self-consistent. But from this individual perception, it looks like each one will have his own, his or her perception or understanding of this truth. And I can't see that would align, together. There will be differences in these perceptions. So is that right, Gregory, that we see the truth all differently? So almost I'm saying that first let's look at that. We all see it differently. So does that imply that the truth is, does that mean it's still self-consistent? Maybe that's what I'm asking, really.
Well, thanks for this particular question. Consider that there are different personalities. Consider that the facts that every personality on earth breathes in and breathes out. That is a fact. Every personality eats, and there is waste elimination. That is a fact. Every personality, in order to maintain its physical instrument, needs to walk, to exercise itself. That is a fact. These facts are fundamental. These facts cannot be denied by anyone. It is the same thing when many a person perceives the truth in their own way. Some of these facts are consistent. Some of these facts, which one just mentioned, that in accordance with the laws of nature, that which is of reciprocal action holds, which applies to breathing. That which is of reciprocal action holds with food intake and waste elimination. That which is of reciprocal action, which sounds cyclic, also holds in the sense that that personality, in taking a physical body, incarnates on earth, and before too long we need to drop this physical body such that the individual parts of the physical body will disintegrate and go back to the original substances. These are facts. Yet the people, the personalities that make use of breathing, of food intake and waste eliminations, these are different individuals. And therefore, what has happened? These facts, which one has mentioned, are consistent with the truth. And that truth has not changed, even in its form. That is what one is referring to.
Thank you, Gregory, for your answer again. It's, facts are facts, so nobody can deny them. And, it's clearly perceptible or perceivable. I was thinking, Gregory, in the past you've talked about people of different maturity. And I was wondering, Gregory, does that mean that some people will have, could say, a better understanding of the life in terms of these facts and than others? And or is everybody equally gifted to, let's say, appreciate facts?
One would not expect a child born today to appreciate a fact as a 3-month-old child, or a 3-year-old child, or an adult. They are at different stages of maturity, even within their physical appearance. That is only an intellectual example. So also it happens in the non-earthly, where the inner maturity of the personality also hold. Many a thing which had been experienced, which ensures that the spiritual personality grows, also hold in such a way that, depending on the spiritual maturity, each personality will have to experience further in a realm which is analogous, which is consistent with its maturity.
Thank you again for that answer. It really provides the clarity again, how to see these things. So there's just one thing, Gregory. I know you were talking about maturity in terms of ages of, let's say, totally different sort of levels of level of human beings. But I was thinking within the same level of age band, if I can say. So let's talk about adults, really. Obviously, for sure, a child cannot understand as much as what an adult can understand. But within the, let's say, a particular age band of human beings, let's say 30 to 40-year-old age adult, and that's the maturity in that group of ages. Do they have a different capacity or ability in perceiving the truth? Yes. So, yeah, is there differences in that way that some are more capable than others?
It all depends on their area of engagement. There are many who engage in music, and their perception of the harmonies in music grants them the opportunities to open up. There are some who are in the arts, like painting. Their perceptions, the way they compose themselves, the way they engage in their activities, helps them to open up. There are some that are not in the arts. It all depends on what one is engaged in and how one cares to engage in whatever they are doing that is all building. That is what grants the maturity. How well one is open to the influences that come through one's intuition. That is what grants the maturity. In fact, that is the measure of maturity.
Thank you for that, Gregory. That really helps, to clarify that. Um, I want to ask now, um, this perception, it doesn't seem to require, Gregory, any, you could say, learning in terms of like when we go to school and we have to learn our ABC and numbers and then make our words and sentences and so on and make a story from there and so on and so on. Because, so it seems to be a different level of perception, Gregory. Because, for example, the smell is always, we can smell, or touch, we can always touch, those things are always, let's say, no matter the age, no matter you don't learn those things, that those senses are always active. Let's say, I'm going to use the word full capacity, if that's not, I'm not sure that's the right word I want to use, but basically they're always active. So, and the intuition, Gregory, is that to be developed in perception, or is that also just like this five senses always active? Just whenever you need it, it's always available. Just like I say, with your eyes, you just see, you don't need to learn to see with your eyes. The eyes are always working. The smell, you don't need to learn how to smell. It's always there. So is the intuition something that has to be developed, or is it automatically fully active?
The impressions of the intuitions have to be recognized. And that is the key. Those impressions have to be recognized, and only through continuous engagement would one then open. So it is the openness. Of course, for one who closes their eyes or opens them partially, you are not able to see completely. So for one who allows its intuition to be continually engaged, as you will find in times of great sorrow or great danger, where not only will the intellect be on the alert, but also the spirits will be on the alert. Then many will quieten some intellectual stirrings within themselves. And because of the danger ahead, many open up. They are able to perceive very quickly. This happens with sometimes in sorrow or in joy. However, for many, it's as if they do not wish to have it so. So it is the openness that counts. For when one is open, it means therefore that there are possibilities which lie outside the scope of what has been intellectually envisaged. The problem is, how can one recognize it? That is the challenge of the individual. And unless you continually listen or you continually open your eyes from time to time when necessary, and you continually engage in it, you yourself will not be able to tell when challenges come forth.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. And I'm just thinking again about so we've talked about the intuition that you need to engage. for it to be effective, you can say. What about, another, like an attitude, how you need to approach with this intuition? Is there something like you must be, I was going to say humble or have humility, and it's like you're seeing it rather than somebody, well, obviously the opposite of humility is arrogance. But is there some other condition, Gregory, also necessary for this intuition to work effectively? Is it, as I say, humility? And maybe even I can say you look at everything like, like science, they would do an experiment objectively. This is, test A and this is test B. So does the intuitive perception, what is required for it to work effectively? Is that humility is required?
The intuitive perception becomes more effective when the personality is open to it. Else, it's unable. For what you mentioned as arrogance only means one has closed himself to it. Simplicity is openness. That expression, openness, is what many should, in their search, find out what it means. To be open means to be able to perceive of the vibrations that assail you, which vibrations may not be in accordance with what you already know. So, when many sort of engage in arrogance, in pride, then in that state, they have closed themselves to many a thing which would have been helpful.
Thank you again for that answer, Gregory. We almost come to the end of the show. Got a few more minutes. I'm just thinking whether to ask a question or to just read some text. Okay, I'll just bring it a little bit quite different question till we've had up to now, Gregory. What about, that we might be influenced? Let's say we are told about, for example, Satan or Lucifer. He's able to tempt us and, let's say, mislead us. And sometimes he dresses something that we can come across. It's like, I can't think of the exact phrase, but something like, let's say you could say a thief in wearing a king's clothing, if I can say like that. A king is a person who, let's say, you would honor and you'd respect, and yet I know it sounds a bit ridiculous, but somebody would be wearing the king's clothes, but actually they're a thief. So you could say the devil, or Satan or Lucifer, as however people call him, can appear in the sort of clothing of deception. Apologies, I can't take that call. So, apologies for that. So what my question is, Gregory, is there a way for us to be conscious that maybe something is presented to us where, let's say, Lucifer or Satan or devil is behind it, and he can deceive us? Are we able to?
Of course, there is a way. Whatever is presented to you must be examined in accordance with the laws of creation. That is always the challenge which many don't wish to follow. Things are accepted without understanding. Things are accepted without questioning. It becomes like you now have assimilated something which, because it cannot be digested by the spirit, becomes like a diarrhea in which some other things are then forced through your system. Therefore, one must examine again and again. At the initial stage, as has been mentioned, the challenge is enormous. As the case of one who is striving to learn the language of creation. But subsequently, many of the challenges will be overcome because you would have known some key structures that will enable you. But I want to stress the biggest problem. Many do not want to take the simple path of step by step. They do not wish simplicity. They wish to jump all of a sudden. They are on the other side. They are all knowing. That is the danger. Before long, they become like Pharisees. Therefore, each personality must always examine. It is not enough to have got to a certain height and remain there. There, it will be like a bird in flight, who, because it has gone to a certain height, folds its wings. The rest, you know.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I'm going to now read the forward from the Grail message in the light of truth. We've come to the end of our show, listeners, so I'd just like to share that with you. It is titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore, awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Aprushin. Dear listeners, I hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. It was I think, very good discussion on truth and dogma. And I'm just going to ask Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say, Gregory, to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing them a beautiful week.
Yes, same from me, listeners. And just to remind you, if you are interested in knowing about the Grail message or want to get a copy for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, hopefully on time, Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time, with another new topic. Hopefully you can join us, and I wish you again a great week. God bless. Take care, everybody. All the best. Good night.